enlightened by several people, including my therapist, that infidelity is an issue that 80% of couples encounter, whether it's one partner cheats or both partners cheat. And I don't know how I feel about that. I hate when people tell me, you're gonna be old by the time you have your baby. Like, you ain't gonna be able to do this, you ain't gonna be able to do that with them. And in the words of Portia, who said that? So, quick disclaimer before I get into the topic. This is a sensitive topic for a lot of people. This is how I feel. This is not an indication of how you should feel or what you're going to do with your life. Everybody is different, and everybody should do what works for them and what's going to make them happy. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. As you can tell by the title, we're going to be getting into some things today. So I wanted to have this conversation because the holidays are coming up. I'm getting ready to see my family, and naturally the topic of kids and marriage are going to come up. And I feel like there might be other women who feel like I do. So let's talk about it. Also, this topic is inspired by Kayla Riggins. I'm going to tag her video in the comments. She made a video about being single forever and she don't know if she wants kids about 6 months ago. And watching her video, I felt so seen and heard because I have a lot of the same sentiments. Let's get into it. And I got my iPad, of course, because I gotta make sure I'm hitting all the points. Let's start with family conflict. I've been in therapy for 7 years now, and over time I've realized as I'm venting about my family that I love them, but I don't like a lot of them anymore. And part of why I don't care to see most of them anymore is because they always have criticism about something. And I feel like I'm the family member that lives an unconventional lifestyle. I'm not pressed to have kids right now. I don't know how I feel about marriage. I'm just living young, wild, and free, for the lack of better words. And I feel like a lot of people from my family, even to what society be saying, feels like it's time to settle down. It's time to get somewhere, get married, have these kids, and stop doing the most. And I don't feel like that. And I feel like it can cause conflict or make me not want to engage with my family. Because if I'm doing what I want to do and you're not respecting that and you keep talking about, when you're going to have kids, when you're going to do this, when you're going to do that, it gets very annoying. And the best way I know to deal with them sometimes is to just not deal with them at all. And this will actually be the first time I'm seeing most of my family since last Christmas. I used to be one of the family members that go home all the time. And since I moved away, I go home once a year, and that's Christmas. And that works for me because that's about as long as I can tolerate most of them, one holiday season. I also want to say moving away has allowed me to realize I am enough, and I've worked on myself a lot to the point that I know what I want in life versus what everybody else think I should have in life. And in due time, if it's meant for me to get married and have kids, I'm going to do that on my time. And better yet, I'm going to do that on God's time and not other people's timeline. People have a bad habit of trying to get you to do things because that's what they want you to do, not necessarily what's best for you at that time. Also, in light of family, I'm sure some of y'all have probably seen the interview Dr. Bryant did with B. Simone a few months ago. And a lot of B. Simone feelings about her family and her avoiding going home for certain events is literally how I feel about my family. I feel like moving away, it allows me to live in a different reality and to just basically ignore how most of my family can be. And going home and engaging with them is always a reminder that they have not changed. And Dr. Bryant's feedback was helpful for me as a viewer because I had to realize that I need to stop praying about my family changing and just accept them for who they are. And honestly, they don't have to change, just like I don't have to change. But only thing I can do is deal with them as I can, which, as I mentioned, is once a year. Maybe then I'm in a different state of mind. I maybe could go back to going home maybe once every quarter. But I just have to accept my family for who they are, and they gotta accept me for who I am. And if they don't accept me for who I am, I will just continue to distance myself from them. And now I'm wondering, how will the holidays be now that I am in a different spirit? And honestly, I don't know if what I'm seeing on this video is going to age well if some of them watch this, but I just want to emphasize I do love my family, but some of their ways and a lot of their commentary has put me in a place of it's better to just love y'all from a distance versus having ongoing conflict with people about what I'm going to do with my life. And I hope other people who may or may not be having conflict with their family, I hope y'all get it together for the holidays. Or y'all at least enjoy the holidays together. That's my biggest hope for me and my family. I'm going to go home for the holidays. It's going to be good vibes, good times. And I'm also prepared to respectfully answer questions regarding when I'm going to get married and if I'm going to have kids. And hopefully that goes well. I've spent a lot of time with my therapist preparing for this visit. Get into dating, marriage, and relationships. I believe in doing things on your time, not when other people think you should be doing things. And society, and if you're a millennial, let me know if you felt the same pressure. It was kind of put on us that by 25, you need to have a house, you need to have a degree, and you need to be getting married and having a kid. And I realized when I turned 25, that's not the life I want, at least not right now. And I believe in doing things on your timeline, not when everybody else think you should be doing something. And there's like this unsaid pressure put on women, especially black women, that if you don't have a man by 35, you've hit the wall, nobody's not gonna want you. And I just don't agree with that. And even if that is the case, I don't think you should still rush to get married and have kids just to say you did it if you're gonna end up being divorced or unhappy. Another part of relationships and dating is I'm a lover yet a leaver. When things are not working out for me or I don't foresee things changing in the right direction, my answer is to leave. And that also plays a part in my attachment style, which is dismissive avoidance. But I just feel like things aren't working. I don't know how long I'm going to stick around and try to work this out. And in light of trying to work things out, I have been enlightened by several people, including my therapist, that infidelity is an issue that 80% of couples encounter, whether it's one partner cheats or both partners cheat. And I don't know how I feel about that. It's kind of been presented to me that that's just something you're gonna have to work through. And for me, I don't want to be with somebody that's gonna be a cheater. Like, I low-key feel like that may be a deal breaker for me. I can't say for sure to be a deal breaker because I'm not married and I don't know what it's like to be married. But I do know during the dating phase, no, if you cheat on me, we done. But I wish cheating was not being normalized, and I wish I could confidently say if somebody cheats on me, I'm done. I don't know though, because I'm not married, and marriage is definitely going to be totally different than a relationship. But the cheating stuff is just not something I can get with. Also, I enjoy being by myself. Whoever my future partner may be, if it is meant for me to have a forever partner, they have to understand I love my me time. I just like being to myself, and it's easier for me to leave relationships because I'm content with myself. At the end of the day, I know how to take care of me, and I'm gonna be straight whether somebody's son is around or not. And for me, sometimes it's easier to cope with not dating or not dealing with the what ifs by just simply saying I'm gonna be to myself, and that's fine. Now, let's move on to motherhood. And before I share my sentiments on motherhood or just my frame of mind of whether or not I'm going to be a mom, I want to clear up a few things about single, child free people. One, we don't hate the kids. I don't know who started that rumor. I don't know why people think when we say team F them kids, that means we hate kids. We're just saying we're glad we don't have that responsibility. And we're also coming from a place of we watch other people have kids and struggling, or other people have kids and they regret it. And we're just like, ooh, we glad that's not us. We learned through some of y'all, and that's okay. Also, I don't like that people feel like people who don't have kids are selfish. And I would argue that to have kids is selfish. Both sides can be viewed as selfish, in my opinion. Single people not choosing to have kids because they don't want their responsibility. And yeah, that is selfish, but at the same time, I feel like that's just being self-aware. And if more people were self-aware, I truly believe some other people wouldn't have kids either. Everybody is not cut out for motherhood. And I wish society would stop preaching that message to women, because everybody shouldn't be a mom just like everybody shouldn't get married. It's just not something you go and do to say, I checked off a box and I did it. And I want women to know it's okay if you don't want to have kids. It's okay if you don't want to get married. That's just not something that's for everybody. And that's okay, no matter how much society may try to shove that rhetoric down your throat. Absolutely not. And for the people who do want to have kids or they have kids, I feel like a lot of people have kids for selfish reasons. They want a mini me. They want somebody to take care of them when they get older. They allegedly want a legacy. And I'm not even gonna comment on the whole legacy stuff. But those reasons are rooted in self. It's not rooted in you have love and you want to share your life with the child and you want to raise a child in a way that they should go and they want to depart of it. Y'all know the whole little Bible verse. But people have selfish reasons for having kids. So I think whether you have kids or you don't have kids, either party can be viewed as selfish. And people who say team F them kids, we don't literally hate them kids. We are not bashing single moms. That is not what we mean when we say that. All right, now that we got that cleared up, I want to talk about some of the negative commentary that I've encountered or other commentary I've seen people say to other people who don't have kids. I hate when people tell me, you're gonna be old by the time you have your baby. Like, you ain't gonna be able to do this, you ain't gonna be able to do that with them. And in the words of Portia, who said that? Who said I'm gonna be old and I'm not gonna be able to move around with my kid? I planned on being active, being in the gym, and keeping myself up. So whether I have a baby at 30 or whether I have a baby at 40, I'm gonna be able to keep up with my baby. And I also don't like that people try to put kids on you. They are quick to say, well, you'll see when you have a baby. You enjoy doing this and that now because things change once a baby comes into the picture. And it's like, who even said I wanted kids? Or who's to say by the time I do have kids that my life with kids is going to be what somebody else's life with kids? Because personally, I want to have a kid if I have a certain amount of money in place because I want a nanny. And I know the whole nanny conversation is very controversial in the Black community, but I want help. That narrative that so many Black women live of being a single mom or being single mom and they're married and they're doing the most, I don't want that for myself. And to avoid that being my life, that's going to require a certain amount of money. I also enjoy the rich auntie lifestyle. I feel like the rich aunties get a lot of slander, and I kind of don't understand why, because it does take a village to raise a child. And what if you were put on this earth to not actually have kids, but to help other people with their kids? Because raising a kid is not easy, no matter how much people try to downplay the responsibility. Raising a kid is serious business, and most kids need more than just one parent or more than just their two parents to help out. And I'm just being realistic with myself when I say I'm not built to be a single mom. Like, I know marriage may not always work out, but I need to have my finances in order and I need to have resources that's going to help me in the event that I end up being a single mom. And I'm not gonna lie. I heard on TikTok a lady say, if you don't like the possibility of being a single mom, you shouldn't have kids. And she might be right. She ate that one little thing with saying it, because anything can happen. The relationship could end. He could pass away. Like, the only things may happen once the baby get here. And sometimes I do feel like, I don't know if that's a risk I'm willing to take. I don't know. Also, my family does not live here. My parents don't live here. At this point, I don't even have no friends that live here. So if I did decide to have a baby, I would need enough money for my parents to come and stay out here with me for a couple months, or I would have to go back to North Carolina. So the thought of having kids when I don't have a village right now, I'm not that fond of that. And for me, that just doesn't make sense to do that. I'm also self-aware to know that as somebody that struggles with anxiety, my chances of having postpartum is higher than most people. And I don't think it would be a good idea to sign up to do that right now if I don't have the resources or the help to make sure I'm going to be straight if I do have a baby. So all in all, I'm not against having kids. I just have a checklist of things that I want and I need in place before I will feel comfortable with bringing a child into this world. Now, let's get into PCOS. And for those that don't know, PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. I was diagnosed with that in 2020, and PCOS is one of the leading causes of infertility. And due to that being a cause of infertility, that has played a part too in my mindset about having kids. When I first heard it, I was like, oh dang, maybe that's just a sign from God that it's just not meant for you to be a mom. And I felt okay with that. And then as time went on, I'm like, dang, do I just don't want to be a mom because I really don't want to be one? Or do I have these feelings because I do want a kid one day, but I fear I'm going to have fertility issues, and it's easier to cope with that by just saying I don't want to have kids versus going through the reality of what if I can't have kids and I actively try to have one. I don't know. I'm still sorting that out, and that's probably something I need to spend some time talking to my therapist about. And even though I've seen two doctors and they've assured me that there's so many methods and things that can help women conceive nowadays, I also have to be real with myself and say, do I want to put my body through that? I don't know how many of y'all watched Being Mary Jane, but during one of the last seasons, it showed her going through the IVF process, and that's not no joke. And for those that don't know, I heard Adrienne Bailon talk about this on a show she was on. With IVF, if the baby process doesn't go right, you don't get your money back. And I think it's like $10,000+ for that treatment every time you try. So the baby already running up a tab and the baby not even here yet. So I don't know when it comes to finances and the actual treatment and how that's going to impact my body. I don't know if I'm willing to endure that. And granted, I haven't tried to have kids yet, but just the thought of it makes me feel like, I don't know about all that. That seems like a lot. And I'm also being realistic with myself and saying I want to have kids older. I want to be like 35 plus because there's just some things I still want to do in life that I want to do before I have kids. And with PCOS and with being older, I'm being realistic and saying it may be a lot harder than what I think it may be to have a kid. And I don't think I want to get my hopes up for that. And I'm also like, I'm an auntie, so regardless, I still play a role in kids' lives if I don't actually end up having a kid myself. I also plan to take an ovarian reserve test within the next 2 years, and that test basically just tells you how many eggs you have and what's the probability of you being able to conceive naturally, or just what's the probability of you being able to freeze your eggs as well. So that's something I definitely want to look into, especially since I plan to take dating more seriously within the next year or so. I don't want somebody's son to be deprived of being a father because of my issues. And I would love to be dating and transparent about that. And I know somebody may love me regardless of what I have going on with my body, but I only think it's fair to let them know that and we decide if we really should be together. Because I don't want to be with somebody and they're like, I want to have kids. I'm going to be like, and I have these problems. So don't be putting that on me. But I guess with the whole kid thing, it's kind of just, we'll see. And I just gotta get some more lab work done and talk to my doctor some more and probably meet somebody before I'll be like, okay, I can see me having a kid or I can't see it. Because right now it's in the air. I don't know. And in light of not knowing, let's talk about some things that I do know for sure. I used to feel like I was in a rush to get married and have a kid because my grandmas are getting older, my parents are getting older, and I'm like, dang, I want them to be around if I get married and have a kid. But I also had to be real with myself and say, I can't rush that process just because they're getting older. I gotta do things on my time, and better yet, I gotta do things on God's time. And if it's meant to happen and they're meant to live and see me be a wife and a mother, they'll be here. I also have worked on a checklist, or better yet, a bucket list of what I want to experience before I become a wife and a mother, and more or less before I become a mother, because a lot of things I want to do as a single person, if I have a husband, they could do a lot of this stuff with me. So there's some things I just want to experience, and as I mentioned earlier, there's some things I want in place before I do have kids, because once you have kids, things change, and there's just certain things I want to do, such as a eat, pray, love journey, that will be a lot easier if I do that before I bring a child into this world. Also, God knows my heart and He knows I don't want to settle. That's something else that people have tried to convince me of. Well, everybody don't get what they want, and you want all this stuff, and you just need to just take this and that and call it a day. And I don't believe in that. I don't believe in suffering. I don't believe in struggle love. And I feel like the God I serve don't want that for me either. It's okay if other people think the love they have is what God wants for them, that's them. But as far as me and how I see my future, I want to be loved correctly. And it's either love me correctly or don't love me at all. I also know I want a family and not just a baby. At one point in life, I did feel like I just wanted to be a mom. But the more I thought about it, I was like, that's kind of selfish because my mom and dad raised me in a 2-parent household. And I only think it's right that I try to do the same thing for my kid. And I know marriage does not guarantee anything because the girls love to say that marriage don't mean nothing. I know things can happen and people change. But I would feel so much better about going into motherhood knowing I tried. And I think as my kid get older, if it is meant for me to have kids, they will respect the fact that as a mother, I did try to do the right thing and things just didn't work out versus just having kids for the just sake of having kids and I'm not ready. And I want romantic love. Nikki said it best. All I want is to love and be loved. I need to be loved before I just be having kids with somebody. Pregnancy is a major sacrifice, and I just can't see me putting my body through that for any and everybody. Be married for at least a good year or so before we add kids on. And honestly, I think if I do become a mom, I'm good with having one kid and that's it. I think financially, that's all I want to be responsible for. And honestly, worst case scenario, if something happens to my husband, I can manage one kid. I don't know if I can manage more than one kid on my own. And I've also come to realize that if I don't get married or have kids, it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna be okay. There's more to life than getting married and having kids. And at the end of the day, I'm an auntie and I still get to help out with kids. And worst case scenario, if I really am like, dang, I wanna be a mom, I'll just go and adopt. There's plenty of kids who need a good home. And finally, I have recently prayed about my dating life and I have told God that I'm very unsure about a lot of things and He knows best. And my prayer is if I can be an asset to somebody's life and we can build a great empire together, God is going to bless me to meet my forever person who's going to love me for me and I'm going to love them for them. And if it's meant for us to have a kid and be great parents, God is going to bless me to get pregnant naturally, or He's going to bless me with the finances to do all the medical things I need to do to have a baby. And that's just where I stand with it. I used to feel like I had to hurry up and decide. And now I'm just like, God knows best. God knows if I can really withstand motherhood, no matter what may happen. And that's how I'm looking at it. So moving forward, when people ask me about marriage and kids, I'm just going to say, God's timing. That's all I can say. We all waiting to see how the story is gonna end because only God knows the ending. I don't know. God knows my heart. God knows what I want, and yeah, we all gotta just wait and see at this point. Hopefully, I look back at this video in a few years and be like, "Oh, okay, it all worked out," or "Oh, okay, this is where we at, and this is how we gonna move forward." I don't know. But what I do know is I want to be loved. I want a family if I am going to have a kid. And I want to be happy. I don't want to struggle with somebody's son or struggle with motherhood. As we figure out life, we just got to see how it's going to go. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see y'all next time.